Recording in progress. Okay, can I start, sir?
Yeah, please. Maximum 30 minutes, okay? And the rest,
Okay,
I will
minimum
to
5 minutes.
don't be too fast.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. Okay, first of all, good afternoon and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Uh, First of all, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Mohit, for giving me the opportunity to speak. And thank you all of the participants for being present and attending my speech or public speaking. Okay, so how to improve spoken English. This is actually a topic I chose based on the relevance it is, like because it is kind of relevant to our degree, uh, English literature and so on. And so something that's relevant to what we are currently studying. That is why I chose how to improve spoken English. So yeah, there's a question mark saying how to improve spoken English. Basically, this is based on my personal opinions. Mariani, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, here we go. So everybody wants to know how to improve spoken English, right? Everyone wants to know. We all want to know how to improve spoken English, but for some of us, there is a big obstacle. To improve English speaking, the best thing to do is to talk with a native speaker, but not all of us have that option. What if you don't have anyone who speaks English? What if you don't have time? And what if you simply don't feel confident enough yet to practice with a native? Uh, the first one I actually mentioned is if the easiest option is to actually speak with a native, but what if you have a native friend, but you are not confident enough to utilize him as someone to practice with, right? So yeah, these are all questions. The next slide, please, May. Okay, now these are based on my personal opinions and personal experience as well. So here are top tips or methods on how to improve your spoken English. Number one, reading in English, right? Number two, learn phrases and not words. Number three, focus on English fluency and not the grammar. Learn your most common sayings. These are the four reasons I chose. Just go back again, May. I will tell you when to skip. There we go. Thank you, Mariani. Okay, so these are the four main points, right, or top tips. Every one of these, they actually have a reason, right? Read in English, number one. Learn phrases and not words. Focus, especially the third one, focus on English fluency and not the grammar, and learn your most common sayings, right? I think you guys can have a what screenshot or whatever snapshot, or May, I think you can skip this one now. Okay, there's a S missing here. Okay, so let's begin. Thank you, May. Let's start. Number one. Okay, reading in English. Again, like I mentioned, I will explain why all of these 4 points I've mentioned. So these are just explanation on why I chose those four explanations, right? Do you, again, a question, do you want to improve your speaking skills? Then you have to start reading as well. It's impossible to improve on one area of a language like speaking if you don't practice and improve other areas as well. There are four skills, right? So reading helps you to improve your speaking skills because it makes your brain work. When you read, you probably listen to your head or inner voice pronouncing the words. Besides that, you're able to learn new words in context that you can use later in your conversation. Finally, when you read newspapers, books, graded readers, poetry, and so on, etc., you mostly have contact with correct, well-structured English. The more you read, the faster your brain will start to recognize patterns and group of words that normally go together. Once these patterns are already in your head, you can use them in your conversation without hesitation. Right? Now, number one, let's just go back. Thank you, mate. Okay, so reading English, number one. Okay, basically, to improve your spoken English, it's there's actually no shortcut, right? There's no shortcut. If you don't practice, you will not improve. But I just thought I wanted to mention one thing why reading is just as important, right? Because sometimes, uh, based on my personal experience as well, and it's something general, if you actually do some observations, yeah. Most native speakers, they don't tend to always use grammar, right? So even though you learn the language or you practice the language, it doesn't mean that you will know the formal language as well or the well-structured language. So that is where you need to find the balance between formal and informal. Native speakers, they very rarely or seldom use formal English. It depends on the environment you are in. Yeah. But if you meet general native speakers outside or wherever you meet them, they will most likely they will use informal English. So even though you want to improve your spoken English, if you want it to be well structured and you want to sound elegant or eloquent, you need to read more as well. This is why reading is just as important for you to actually learn well structured English as well instead of just informal or the slang. Thank you, May. Number two, learn phrases and not words. An even better idea to improve English is to learn word phrases, not just the words. You might be using correct grammar and vocabulary, but it's still not how a native speaker would say it. For example, you can say, how do you feel? Or how do you do? Or how are you doing? But a native speaker might say, how you doing? Or what's up? Instead, phrases and expressions can be helpful for sounding more natural when you speak. Okay, this is another important one. If you use, like, for instance, how do you feel or how are you doing? Normally, like I mentioned earlier, native speakers, or when you go to America, most likely, or South Africa, where I'm from, you will either hear how's it instead of how are you doing or how's it going. They will just ask you, hey, how's it? Instead of so instead of learning the words one by one, learn the phrases so you understand these are common terms or common phrases that native speakers use. Instead of learning the words, learn the phrase. How do you feel? That's just one example. In America, they don't even use how's it, they use what's up or WhatsApp, or not WhatsApp, WhatsApp. Yeah. Some of them, they now, a trending way of saying how's it going, they just say sup, like sup, SUP, like sup, not WhatsApp, just sup. So if you are not like exposed to these phrases, and you understand, or you commonly understand how do you do, you will be lost as well. Yeah. So another way of learning the language or practicing the language is by learning phrases and not only the words. Thank you, May. Next slide, please. Okay, focus on English fluency, not the grammar. When you speak English, how often do you stop? The more you stop, the less confident you sound and the less comfortable you become. Try, try the mirror exercise above, but challenge yourself to speak without stopping or stammering, taking pauses or mumbling between your words the entire time. This might mean that your sentences won't be grammatically perfect, and that's okay. If you focus on speaking fluently instead of correctly, you'll still be understood and you sound better. You can fill in the correct grammar and word rules as you learn them better. Okay, so yeah, this is another thing. Like instead of learning the grammar and focusing on the grammar, I've actually personally I've seen many people, well educated people. Yeah, they are extremely intelligent, and the moment they start speaking, they sound like, yeah, like foreigners to the language, or sometimes SD or SMP students sound better than some of the teachers who I actually teach, because most teachers, they commonly focus on the grammar instead of the fluency. So it's even though you don't sound like a native, but the more you practice, the better you get. So not only by focusing on the grammar, but focusing on your fluency as well. Thank you, May. Next slide. Okay, learn your most common sayings. So take some time to really notice how you speak in your native language. What words and phrases do you use most often or most of the time? Learn how to say your most commonly used phrases and words in English. Knowing them in English will help you speak as well in English as you do in your native language. To get you started, one of the most basic and useful phrases in English, arguably in any language, is "I'm sorry." Right? "I'm sorry" has a range of different uses and can help with daily interaction to more complicated and emotional scenarios. Okay, so the reason why I chose this last reason, learn your most. So like words and phrases that you use commonly every day. If you are a teacher, you teach mathematics, so you normally learn or use a group of words that you always use. So if you can use those same words in English, for example, if you normally use it in Bahasa Indonesia and you change it to English, those are the easiest words to begin with or to start with, because those are words that you actually use every day, that you always use. Yeah. So that this is like the starting point. This is where you start by words you always use. Just use it in the English language. Okay. Thank you, May. Next slide. Okay, this is actually the last slide. I don't know if I went too fast. I think I went too slow, maybe. If you fail to plan, then you are planning to fail. Okay. The reason why actually this is an old English saying. Yeah. So the reason why I actually mentioned this saying is because normally you decide to learn English today, you are motivated, and then maybe in 2 or 3 days, you are no longer motivated, right? So instead of like studying or learning the language by motivation, rather make plans, right? Set targets or set goals, right? So for instance, like Monday to Friday, at least I want to add 2 or 5 words to my vocabulary, or I want to try maybe buy a book or something to learn English, maybe cover 2 to 5 pages a day, even 5 pages a week. But as long as you see slow progress and then you build towards your goal. So set a target maybe from, okay, January now. So maybe January, February, March, April, May, July, maybe 5 months, 6 months goal. Okay, this is what I sound like now. Make a recording, and then 2 months or 3 months from now, the same conversation, you make a recording, you double check what you sounded like, and then you check what you sound like now. So instead of just randomly based on motivation, okay, it's Saturday, I'm speaking with Mr. M, I feel motivated, and then the moment the class ends and no more motivation. So instead of learning a language based on motivation, rather plan. So if you fail to plan, then you are planning to fail. So if you make a plan, stick to your plan. The most important thing, you have to be consistent and you have to be steadfast. Uh, the last thing I would like to mention is that no matter what you do, when you actually study a language or you want to improve your speaking, there is no shortcut. If you do not practice, you will not improve or you will not get better. practice doesn't make you perfect, but practice makes you better. No one's perfect, yeah. But the more you practice, the better you get. Uh, I don't know if that was long enough, but I thank you, Mr. M. I hope some of you gained something from my slide and my speech for 10, 15 minutes. Thank you, Mr. M. Good luck. There we go. And that's the end of the slide.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ahmad. Give big applause for group 1, for Mr. Ahmad, to share about how to speak English, yeah, how to be fluent in English and to gain more confidence. Okay, for the rest of the class, I will share about the material. This is the last material for us, the tips, also the theory about public speaking. Okay, I will share. Oh yeah, before I start, I also like to announce you that you still have one more activity for grouping, yeah, grouping activities that you need to do with your group. So just share the time schedule to practice public speaking in English with your group. Okay, so if available, I will share, yeah. Okay, so our material for this afternoon is about overcoming fear of public speaking. Okay, so I have this book, yeah. I think I have given this book before on Spada. So anyone has read this book before? Usually, honestly, have you ever opened this book, Overcoming Fear of Public Speaking? Yeah, this is ebook, unique 21 days program by Benjamin Van Spizek. So this book lead us or guide us about how to overcome our fear, yeah, especially when we do our public speaking. So here we go, yeah. Before I talk again, yeah, so this is the question: how big is your fear? I also ever share about like survey that I have ever shared for that survey. Then you try and you get how big is your fear and the score of your confidence, like that. So what is the biggest fear in your life? Anyone want to share? What's the biggest fear? Failure, death, or lose someone? Anyone want to type on the chat? Just type your biggest fear in your life. Okay, waiting. I'm waiting 1 minute. You can type just one. There is a survey from one of the student, yeah, from UGM, yeah, Jogja. So she has surveyed some people to ask about the fear of life. So that's why I want to ask you, kira-kira hasilnya sama nggak nih? Oke, belum ada nih. Which one? What's the biggest fear in your life? No one want to share or to type? Ya, just type. Silakan ditulis di kolom komen. Belum ada yang jawab. Fail. Oke, Anissa, good. Fail ya, kegagalan. Kill. Ini kematian. Oke, berarti ada kegagalan. Tadi kan ada failed, ada death, ya. Oke, any more? Only Anissa and Enda? Oke. Talking about fear. Jadi in bahasa Indonesia, losing. Oke, losing people I love. Oke, kehilangan. Losing people I love. Oke. Commonly, the biggest fear that people face is what we call that, like death, ya, death. Jadi kematian. Itu banyak sekali survei mengatakan bahwa mereka takut mati. Padahal kita nggak tahu kapan matinya, ya. We don't know that when we die. Oke, meet pretenders. Oke, ya. In bahasa Indonesia, ya, it's coming the small thing like groggy, ya. Groggy itu umum, ya, sering groggy, ya, nervous, groggy gitu, ya. Nah, setelah groggy itu muncul lagi biasanya yang namanya salting, ya, teman-teman, ya. So I would like to speak campur-campur in bahasa ini in English, ya. Like nervous, oke, salting. Salting ini kalau zaman dulu salah tingkah gitu, ya. Oke. Nah, terus lanjut lagi ada cemas, ya, cemas. Setelah cemas ada istilah panik, ya, panik. Oke. Setelah itu ada ngeri. Ngeri ini udah hampir mengarah ke takut, ya. Nah, baru kita masuk ke takut. Oke. Takut. Setelah itu ada namanya ketakutan yang umum, yaitu fobia, ya, fobia sosial. Dan yang terakhir adalah fobia spesifik. Disclaimer first, ya. If we talk about fear, it means we talk about the psychology. Nah, kebetulan kan Mr. background-nya bukan psikologi nih, tapi Mr. menyampaikan apa yang dari buku tersebut, ya, yang dibaca dari buku tersebut. Jadi kalau tahapannya ketakutan itu seperti apa, mungkin nanti teman-teman bisa searching lagi, cari lagi materinya. Kalau ini adalah yang Mr. sampaikan, ya. Oke, jadi tahapannya kurang lebih seperti ini. Nah, kita as the presenter or as human, we also have fear, ya. Pasti itu ada rasa takut. Ada nggak manusia yang nggak ada takutnya? Nggak mungkin, ya. Pasti ada takut semua, gitu. Nah, tapi takutnya itu bisa dikendalikan atau tidak, gitu. Jadi yang disampaikan di dalam buku ini adalah ketika kita bisa mengendalikan ketakutan kita, ya, it means that we can overcome our fear, we can be more success, gitu. Jadi kita bisa lebih jauh berkembang, lebih jauh lebih sukses, gitu. Terutama dalam hal melakukan public speaking. Karena penulis ini si Benjamin tadi, ya, beliau mengatakan berdasarkan pengalaman beliau, sebelumnya beliau itu takut ngomong, tetapi setelah itu beliau belajar bagaimana melakukan public speaking. Jadi beliau belajar ke dua tempat, dua orang. Yang pertama ke psikologi, yang kedua ke trainer, gitu. Jadi psikologi beliau menganalisa ketakutannya, yang kedua ke trainer mengasah pengetahuannya untuk public speaking. Nah, di sini ada beberapa jenis gangguan kecemasan, ya. Yang pertama ini ada agorapobia. Jadi panik di keramaian, lalu ada serangan kepanikan, ya. Banyak juga yang begini, yang nggak tenang, nggak calm down, gitu. Ada post traumatic stress disorder, oke, gangguan kecemasan akan perpisahan seperti tadi, takut berpisah, takut ditinggal dan sebagainya. Lalu ada kecemasan sosial dan fobia spesifik. Nah, kalau kita bicara tadi pada ketakutan atau kecemasan dalam berbicara, to talk about public speaking, being a public speaker. So, is it only as you're nervous or your phobia? Gitu. Jadi dikembalikan lagi, kita itu sebenarnya takutnya itu sudah takut fobia atau takutnya cuma nervous. Gitu. Jadi teman-teman nanti akan mengetahui sendiri sebenarnya ketakutannya itu di mana. Ya. Ketakutannya, kecemasannya atau kekhawatirannya itu di mana, seperti itu. Oke, di sini ada fear under the microscope, ya. Jadi ketakutan yang dicatat oleh Benjamin ya. Jadi pertama mengatakan ya, public speaking is an everyday reality. So anytime, anywhere ya, you will always have a public speaking. Jadi dengan adanya public speaking itu, bahwa sesuatu yang tidak bisa dihindari, you cannot avoid it. It's an everyday reality. Ya, maybe you meet your boss, maybe you meet your client face to face, maybe you teach your friend, you teach your student, and then also like you have to present the meeting in a group and so on and so on. Jadi itu adalah sebuah kenyataan ya yang tidak bisa ditahan atau tidak bisa diubah. Nah, di situ we cannot live without fear ya. Di sini dinyatakan juga, jadi kita nggak bisa hidup tanpa ketakutan. Fear is a fact. Jadi ketakutan itu adalah sebuah kenyataan, sebuah fakta, and a very natural reaction to a threatening situation from the beginning. Fear, just like pain, has been an alarm signal of great importance for the survival of the human race. Jadi dikatakan di buku itu kalau ketakutan itu sebenarnya natural. Oke, dari awal takut itu memang perih atau pahit gitu ya. Tetapi setelah kita melewatinya, maka suatu ketakutan itu akan menjadi modal kita untuk bertahan hidup ya, atau berlomba-lomba untuk memenangkan kehidupan nyata ini. Seperti itu. Nah, di bukunya lagi dicatatkan ya, ada there are three kind of fears. Ya, the first is ingrained and acquired fears. The second is real and irrational fears. The third is anxiety disorders. Jadi yang pertama ketakutan yang tertanam ya dan didapatkan, ketakutan nyata dan tidak rasional. Yang ketiga adalah gangguan kecemasan. Oke, kita lihat yang pertama ya. Ingrained and acquired fears. Jadi ketakutan yang secara alami bereaksi terhadap situasi atau objek berbahaya yang sudah mendarah daging kepada manusia. Oke. Tetapi karena di sini adalah terhadap situasi atau objek ya, maka kita sudah tentu punya kekhawatiran. Misalnya kalau kita melihat pisau, mungkin kalau untuk di dapur kita nggak takut karena kita motong. Tetapi bayangkan kalau kita melihat orang di jalan bawa pisau. Oke, pasti itu secara alami kita bereaksi, kita takut. Bahwa ingrainnya itu memang situasinya seperti itu. Objek berbahaya. Gitu, yang sudah mendarah daging. Benda-benda tajam, bom, gitu. Itu kan sudah pasti benda-benda yang memang membahayakan. Gitu ya. Sajam lah kalau istilahnya dalam kepolisian, sajam ya, senjata tajam. Nah, secara nggak langsung, misalnya ada juga acquired fears ya. Jadi acquired fears ini yang didapatkan secara langsung ya. Misalkan reaksi kaget saat mendengar suara keras ya, takut jatuh ke dalam jurang. Itu kalau kita ngeliat ketinggian kan, oh pasti takut gitu. Karena memang sebuah objek yang membahayakan kita gitu. Walaupun ada tali, misalnya kita berpegangan naik gunung gitu, you have rope, but of course there is a fear, ada ketakutan di situ. Nah, si namanya Benjamin ini, dia menuliskan ada satu contoh ketakutan, ya. Jadi dalam bukunya ditulis psikolog John B. Watson. John B. Watson ini seorang psikolog, ya. He teach for the sun in a year, ya. To be afraid of mice, ya. Jadi takut pada tikus lah, mouse gitu ya, atau tikus putih kalau kita anggap gitu. Nah, dia melakukannya ini dengan membiarkan anak itu bermain dengan tikus. Tetapi setiap kali anak itu bermain dengan tikus, si Watson ini, si psikolog ini membuat suara keras di belakangnya. Gitu. Setelah melakukannya beberapa kali, ternyata anak tersebut sudah menjadi penakut pada tikus. Gitu. Apa yang menyebabkan dia takut? Karena tindakan si Watson tadi. Artinya takut itu dibuat, ya, didapatkan. Nah, makanya istilahnya tidak boleh kita menciptakan sebuah ketakutan gitu. Misalnya dulu nih kita waktu kecil nih, kalau di luar, jangan di luar nanti ada setan misalnya. Nah, kita akhirnya apa? Takut sama setan gitu kan. Padahal tidak nyata, tidak lihat juga gitu. Ya, atau ada polisi, awas awas ada polisi ya. Polisi ditakuti gitu. Padahal polisi pelindung masyarakat. Jadi hal-hal seperti itu adalah sesuatu yang dibuat. Nah, maka ini perannya adalah pada parenting ya, pada orang tua. Jadi orang tua kalau bisa jangan menakut-nakuti. Contoh sederhananya adalah ketika program menyusui atau MPASI gitu ya. Nah, setelah selesai ASI biasanya ada istilahnya untuk menyapi atau menyelesaikan program ASI tersebut untuk anaknya. Nah, kebanyakan para orang tua itu mereka menakut-nakuti gitu kan. Padahal in fact gitu, kalau ditakuti justru mereka nanti akan takut gitu. Nah, jadi harusnya memang diinformasikan bahwa memang sudah tidak keluar ASI, sudah besar dan sebagainya. Jadi diberikan penjelasan tapi bukan diberikan ketakutan ya. Misalkan ada yang dikasih betadin, ada yang dikasih obat merah atau hal-hal yang pahit supaya anak bayinya itu tidak menyusui lagi misalnya. Itu hal yang kurang benar. Nah, jadi intinya jangan membuat ketakutan itu terjadi gitu ya. Nah, ini adalah acquired fears. Yang kedua adalah real and irrational fears ya. Ketakutan yang nyata dan juga tidak nyata. Jadi pasti ada ketakutan yang nyata, tapi ada juga yang nggak nyata gitu ya. Jadi ketakutan yang bisa didapat dari hal nyata ya, akan takut sesuatu yang menghadirkan bahaya nyata, tapi ketakutan juga tidak bisa tidak rasional gitu. Misalnya takut akan sesuatu yang menimbulkan bahaya gitu. Misalnya contoh gini. Mungkin kalau ada sesuatu hal, objek gitu, menurut kita itu tidak berbahaya gitu. Tetapi ada yang menurut sebagian orang itu bahaya gitu. Nah, ini yang disebut dengan ketakutan yang nyata dan tidak rasional. Ya, ada yang misalkan kalau di swimming pool main sliding gitu, karena slidingnya berputar-putar seperti itu, maka dia merasa takut gitu. Padahal banyak yang nyoba nggak apa-apa, fine gitu. Jadi itu dianggap sesuatu yang tidak rasional tadi, gitu. Tidak menimbulkan bahaya tapi takut, gitu. Nah, gejalanya adalah sama, ya. Jadi biasanya jantungnya berdebar, mulutnya kering, perasaannya merasa tertindas, ketegangan saraf, lekas marah, gelisah, atau masalah konsentrasi, ya. Nah, yang berikutnya adalah yang ketiga, anxiety disorders. Jadi rasa takut yang nyata berguna karena menjauhkan kita dari situasi berbahaya. Jadi rasa takut ini lebih ke gangguan kecemasan, ya, karena anxiety disorder. Banyak orang dapat hidup dengan baik bahkan dengan ketakutan irasional, tetapi masalah muncul ketika ketakutan irasional mengambil proporsi sedemikian rupa sehingga orang terhalang untuk berfungsi biasanya. Dalam hal ini, ya, psikolog berbicara tentang gangguan kecemasan atau fobia. Nah, fobia tadi dibagi lagi tuh, ada fobia sosial, ada fobia spesifik. Ya, kalau nama-nama fobia banyak sekali ya teman-teman ya. Jadi teman-teman bisa cek mendalami ketakutan teman-teman itu dalam hal apa. Misalnya di sini fobia sosial ya, misalkan takut bicara di depan umum, takut menelpon dan lain-lain gitu ya. Ada juga fobia